Welcome to the Playground Experience. This is Divine Sunshine and my co-host, Kathy D and April Williams. All right, I'm going to do a little less on the talking. I'm a little kind of congested, but I will chime in when I can. So right now, I'm gonna leave it to them until my voice kind of go open. It goes in spells. It'll be tight and then it'll open up next. So I'm gonna give it to April Williams because she was about to tell us about how she is faring with the energy.
Hi. Well, it's I'm surrounded by cuteness right now, so that's a really nice buffer for the nonsense that's been happening this week. Stop spraying me with water. What is happening? I'm on a show. Don't you know I'm a valuable person? Don't you know I'm doing
Hey,
things?
what the
Uh,
mean? Happened to me?
you need to cool off, lady. Yeah, these energies out here right now are absolutely maddening and depressing. Depressing, is that a thing? Anyway,
They are now.
It is
they're
now.
over analyzing. Everyone's having that deep scorpionic purge, and it's kind of like the death and rebirth cycle, except everyone feels more like the death part right now. Right? Like, even though there's there was a lot of Leo aspect.
And it's deaf to our camera.
Bless her heart.
Yes. Well, yeah, we do have the new Scorpio moon, which is it does come with a death. And also if you go by K Moon, the astrologer, states that also it's gonna be some unexpected surprises just coming wham out of the blue, which is indicative of the scorpion, because it's got that tail, that sting, which usually comes out of nowhere, but once it stings you, it's automatic death. So there is there is a chance that some things are happening as far as us having that death experience, like she said, mentally, the over and over and over again, thinking, and then finding out some of that stuff. We say, you know what, I'm tired of my own mess, and you know what, I got to put a death to scratchy. I got to put an end to it. But back to April. Just want to put my 2 cents. Now you're back.
Well, thank you for that, because that really does show um, the paralleling. Look, my language is gone. I can't even speak. And what's been really weighing on me on this whole situation, this whole situation being the new moon, right, is um, there's so much haunting, but there's a beautiful fuel that's pushing me through to the other side despite any of that setback. So yes, you may be having all this emotion, but you've been practicing. You've set up your um, safety systems. You've learned how to ask for help. You've learned how to be vulnerable with yourself, and that's the key. Stop spraying her hair, please. And so even if there's a side of seeming chaos going on, you do feel centered and move forward. So let's say I had some stuff come up where my belief in myself and my strength and power and stuff was coming into question, and I was still doing the process of the activity anyway. Typically, I would get wrapped up in the procrastination process of self-judgment and all of these things. But what I was actually able to do, what I was actually able to do was continue anyway, despite all that heaviness that I was carrying. So I'm really thanking. Yes, exactly, Mimi. I'm like really asking myself, why am I like this? Yes, I want to heal this. Yes, I want to clear this. Yes. Aole, did you just hear her say, don't spray her in the face? Don't do that. I know you're having fun, but mommy said no. Okay, you can spray the boat. Okay, anyway, you guys understand what I'm saying here. Like, you're steering the ship, you're moving through the water, but but you're remembering the echoes of storms that have passed. So it's like, if I use the ship analogy again, it's like having a ship going. Well, this will be our ship. The ship is moving. How do I do this? The ship. Anyway, the ship, it has moved through the storm, but the storm, you can still see the storm behind, but you still are remembering, like, oh, I was so scared when that ship happened, or that storm happened. Yeah, I was so scared when that lightning struck, and there's lightning still striking back there, but it has nothing to do with you right now. And so that's what has been brought to my attention, is bringing in the now. And as hard as it is, we feel like we're rushed to be quick, but we're being asked to be slow. So every project that you're wanting to push forward is moving forward, but it seems like it's not enough, or it's not happening at the pace you want, or maybe you're not getting the response that you desired, or maybe you're having some plateaus. It's feeling a lot of levels of yes, you're so cute. The levels of just filtering out what is necessary and what isn't necessary for this next stage. And it really does feel like there's a whole new stage. Ole, you want me to take that spray bottle? No? Okay, then. So, hi. So we do need to take some time and kind of recognize that these things are happening, and then have the patience to just let it be what it is and let it fall off. There's a lot of things, like in terms of consciousness or habits, and we're able to push through and get to that higher level of what we're attempting to accomplish. So I'm feeling really good about what's coming up. I'm feeling really good about this next stage. It's just, there is a whole lot of question marks, right? And and so entering into a place of knowing, it's going to be the way. That's the way to do it. And that's part of Scorpionic charm, is like their dedication, their loving energy, their focus, but they're also they're all in it to win it until they're not. And so where is it in your life that you're all in it to go, but what parts of you are holding you back from getting there? And that's what's rising to the surface.
Yeah,
Anyone?
I got my cheat sheet here, and it says that the Scorpio energy is competitive, courageous, determined, forceful, introverted, magnetic, mysterious, powerful, probing, possessive, resourceful, secretive, strong-willed, and some of the shadows is fixated, jealous, and suspicious. So that fixated stuff is again where we have in our mind, where we get fixated on an idea and we keep on doing it and put it in a continuous loop. That's where that's coming in. That determine where you're like, okay, I'm going through it, but I'm going to get to the other side of this. That's where that Scorpio energy is coming in too. I want to say you have competitiveness. You might find yourself competing with yourself, and also forces. It's almost like I was teaching a class about the different is it called the natures of conflicts in literature. So you got man versus man versus self, man versus nature, man versus society, and I'm missing one.
Man versus God.
Thank you, man versus God. And so that might be some things that we're finding ourselves finding a conflict with, that we need to maybe have an ending to. This is what's being brought to me when I think about this competitiveness. The first thing that jumped off saying, it's not just being competing, like I got to be better than the next person. It's like, what are these things that you're conflicted, that you've been conflicted with, that you got to release now? And this is what they're pointing you to. right now with the energies. Magnetic, that goes back to we talked about earlier. You got to be kind of watch it with what you're attracting, your thought patterns. You know, we're manifesting things quick. I thought and said something to my DM's higher self, and the next minute he was trying to manifest himself in my front door. And I'm like, I'm not ready. So my thing is, you gotta watch when you ask for stuff, be ready too. That's another thing. So it's like, you that those things there. Understanding that also at this time, a good running theme has been self care. Spirit has, I listen for trends, and if I hear too much, it's something that Spirit wants us to know. While we're going through all of this stuff, there is a need for us as we're powering through or being determined. I'm going to do this. I'm going to whatever that these good things that the Scorpio energies, forcefulness, powerful, resourceful. That we have to remember again that we have to turn within and also fill our own cup. And that's why I wanted to bring that in because these energies here, it's a lot of pushing. It's a lot of pushing here. But what I found myself is a lot of pushing to put us in the position of being number one. And where we are really looking at ourselves, understanding, putting those boundaries up, doing those things that help to preserve who we are right now, because right now is we're in a real sensitive kind of critical moment where we are actually we're transforming, we're molting down, or whatever you want to say, like the butterfly, and like you say about these projects. Yeah, you'll find yourself, you push a little bit and then you're like, you know what, it don't seem like it's right, let me take a time out, let me kind of reshift some things and pick back up the project. But you don't find yourself leaving it like you used to. You really do feel like you want to circle the wagon back and say, let me pick that up again. It's a different thing. You know within yourself that things have got to be done. And then there's also still that sense of community too. There's coming out and connecting with one another and was leaning on each other, getting resources. That goes back to the Scorpion energies. If you can't fix it, go out and find somebody else that can be able to help you too. This is where resourcefulness is, and that's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of resourceful. I think society puts on us. What if I go ask somebody? Then that's gonna show them that I'm not smart, and then I'm weak at the same time, and so that makes me vulnerable. It makes me open to other people. What they gonna think about me? And then before you know it, your mind is reeling all over the place, all over again. So this is right now at this time is about resourcefulness. What can I do to help me to go on to this next leveling up that I need to? You might even find that your DM might come and trigger you, and that might help you to open up some things to kind of look. Myself and some other people I've seen also fathers from the other side have stepped up. They have came. Myself, I'm not even gonna put the other person on unless she wants to contribute that. But even my best friend said her father came and told her something about the relationship. Mine's told me about my relationship. It's told me to kind of look at it from a different perspective. I'll leave that private. I know what I need to do. It's some things that got to be healed. I'll say this much. He said, no, they need to know that. I'll say this much. It's a dynamic in my father and our relationship that we know that our twins also show us with our dynamics with our parents as well. So he told me in so many words, what he's doing is helping me to heal about something that as a child I couldn't get over about him when he was living. So that again is our fathers. Now, I have known for my bestie to be a twin flame, but hey, but it has been so. Again, you had that opening November the 1st and the 2nd. The first was Dios. What is the Spanish word? It's Day of the Dead, and next no, second day is Day of the Dead. The other day is
All
other
Saints Day.
It's All Saints Day.
right.
Yeah.
So you had, I mean, the portal was open. The veil was already thin about last week. If you were sensitive, you had them in your living room or your bedroom saying, "Hi, how you doing?" But right now, where we are, they have fathers. I've gotten several sightings, and if you do science, if you get so many like that. There's something in there scientifically that can say that this could start being a fact. That they have been from the other side, have been lending themselves. The ancestors have been saying, "Okay, I'm gonna give you this golden nugget, this pearl of wisdom, so you can be able to use it on your journey." So I thought that was very interesting. So I'm gonna stop because my voice was feeling good. It felt like it was kind of opening before it goes shut down again. So that's what I have for my front line about what I see is going on for me with the
Well,
industry.
and like what I've seen is the paranoia and the projection of fears that haven't manifested, but we hold on to them on that anticipation. We talk about that trauma. And so we're holding on to that. And the other thing is with this Scorpio moon, it talks about that it's going to bring out secrets. But the thing we have to ask ourselves is these secrets that are supposed to be coming out, do they hold any truth for us? Is there any, good to it? Are they going to be relevant to what we're doing? And, should we react upon them? And we need to really listen to ourselves, listen to our higher self. I had a something come up this week, and immediately when it happened, I heard, well, this isn't going to happen. But instead, I let fear take over. And I went down that rabbit hole before coming back and saying, well, wait a minute, that's what I heard. So that's out there, and we really have to kind of watch what we're entertaining and listening to our going the other direction here. Sorry. Listen to our intuition, because it's really strong right now. And yeah, what you're saying about the fathers, mine happens to still be alive, but I had my grandfather and great grandfather, actually not even as much my grandfathers as my
Get off of
great
her.
grandfathers.
Get off of her. Get off of her. What's going on, you guys?
Into to just kind of see, and I guess let their presence be known.
Yeah.
And so that was really interesting, the way that kind of came in. So but yeah, we have to really be, when they say, oh, there's going to be truth coming out, but then we have to realize, well, one, whose truth is it? And then two, is this relevant? Should we even react to it? And the other thing I'm going to tell you is something I have realized, and especially while we're manifesting so easily right now, we have to stay in a high vibration.
Yeah.
And when we are in the presence of negativity, if there's somebody you work with that just rubs you the wrong way, is like sandpaper, you just keep a high vibe. You don't know if they're just going to walk away and give up from arguing with you, or they're going to decide they want to be your friend. You just high vibe it. You just know that everything's going to work out. It's just going to work out. It's just going to work out. Because we have to stop with that set ending, how we want it to turn out. Because as we do that, then the universe goes, well, I was going to give it to you, but now you've said this is how it's, and this isn't going to how it's going to work out. And so they pull back so much. So we just have to really release with anticipation. Just know it's going to work out. Everything's good. We stay in that high vibe. And then it gets us even into the quantum physics of it all. And the high vibe and the parallel universes, and, being able to do all of that and timeline jump. So we have to be careful. That.
So what I've, it's also been father, right? But my father was not present and was unavailable emotionally for me, and puts himself out there as if he is an attentive father and fully connected and all these things, but he is to his other children. He in fact kind of ignores me and does all this, extra stuff. Anyway, all of that stuff did rise up this week because I was talking to somebody, and it's a father thing. So we switched at this time because when we're dealing with life, we're dealing with safety. Right? We're dealing with legacy and all these things. And so we're having to do a lot of cleaning. So even though you may have this truth, right, Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. You may have this truth. I was abandoned. Not so much abandoned. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna change my wording, but my father was not available, right? And so then there was some kind of mental pattern of not being good enough or not being acceptable or something like this for that fatherly love when he is clearly capable of it. He has a whole family that he cares for, and he sees his kids and does all that stuff. But for me, I can't even get a message back unless it's something that's you know what he wants to message back, right? It's very selective. So it's interesting. So what I had to do was, the secret and the lie was, no, maybe it's not you, right? That was part of the lie that was being told by myself that I get to now die to. That's now a dead part of me. Like, yes, I know that I'm going to heal this part where I allow myself to receive love consistently, know that I'm worthy and all these things. Yes, that's absolutely a wonderful thing. But part of me had to die. And the part of me that had to die was the little girl who was so upset and hurt that her father wasn't around or available. And so we need to be able to be open to the real interpretation of life. Yes, there's so much we can be responsible for, and working on ourselves, but we cannot be responsible or for the actions of other people.
Right.
And so this means that part of him has died for me too, right? If that part of me died, that was uplifting him and putting him on a pedestal and these other family on a pedestal, well, maybe that's because, oh, wait, first of all, nobody needs to be on a pedestal, but I get to put myself in that space. I get to say it's safe for me to love and be loved and be honored and actually acknowledged. And then I look at how many times in my life I let myself put on that armor with my ex-husband or ex-boyfriends or, whatever, trying to validate, yes, you're not good enough, when in reality, the truth is you've been so amazing this whole time, and it's amazing you haven't grown wings and just floated up, flown off the planet, right? Because you had to bear all these things, and now you get to let that go, and the secret is out and everyone knows, oh, well, you know uncle, I won't say my dad's name on here, but uncle so and so, he he keeps saying he's like this, but in reality, here it is, there's the receipts. You have a whole living receipt of your lack of attentiveness. You have a whole living receipt. And so now I can view the situation more appropriately. But the clearest way would be if I were to ask him what he thinks about the situation, right? Because there's even a point in my life where, because he's still alive, there's a point in my life where he said, it's up to you to contact me and for us to have this relationship. I would call him every single weekend and maybe get a call back once every 3 months, and whether he talked to me or not. And that's heartbreaking for a person to put themselves out there every single week, hoping that I'm going to build this relationship when it's really just the other person not wanting to have a relationship and then blaming you for it. And so where else have I let myself be gaslit, right? So now, oh, another part of me died, right? I think of it like the layers of the onion, right? Like, oh, that's not even part of it. That doesn't even need to exist. We're just going to let that peel off. And then I get to be more and more whole. I like a lotus better because you know what? That was some mud. That was some bullshit. Now it's getting clear, and let myself grow through this. And so, that is part of the rawness and realness of Scorpio. They're very focused. They're very loving. And it's not that we need to not love that aspect, but we get to be open to there being more than what we have come to know as normal or come to expect as normal. And that's what's interesting, is the world is putting in front of me different aspects of understanding myself and my value. Because in reality, I let my value be determined by this person who didn't know their own value or responsibility and put it off on others. But I myself always took on all responsibility. But you know what? Now I get to let some of that go. And And that is several layers of ego death. Thankfully, no physical things were harmed during this process, except for maybe a couple bruises. Like, you know how you stub your toe and you're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to slow down now. Or you hurt your eye and you're like, yeah, maybe I'm supposed to take a look at it. Not everything is all sweet and rosy, you know. Although I do love my rose-colored glasses. But this new moon was no joke. Put everybody on like, I just need to lay down or
Yeah.
slap some people. Like it's just been like that.
Well, and then we've got passions running high because you've got Virgo in Capricorn. And that is a whole nother hot mess all in its own.
What is the I'm talking to my son.
Oh,
Oh,
But what? Tell me more about this Virgo and
yeah. Who's in
Capricorn, because
Virgo?
those two,
For?
because that just sounds like, that sounds like perfection overload, but instant
Right.
manifestation.
oh yeah. Hold on, I'll get it. Let me find it because I've got it in the app, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I don't remember signing up for this.
Oh, sweet. Not for me. You got OCD? No, 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 not me.
Yeah, it's Oh, come on! I just had the damn thing.
Yeah, that's all different kinds of clashing there.
You
Yeah,
know,
it
I'm gonna
is, and it
address. I'm
days
gonna
grow up.
I'm gonna address the what Mimi was talking about. You don't have to put anything up, but I'll just go ahead and say, like, you know, I thought about it too from their perspective. And I'm not going to overly empathize because I get to empathize with myself, right? And understand my needs and desires. And they've been suppressed in an effort to, you know, pacify that of that that placeholder which is not there, which a lot of people don't have that placeholder. So when we're looking at who's our father, who's our protector or our supporter, you're now looking at people who are relying on government systems, or people who are relying on external systems that are this ubiquitous like father type aspect. And so they're, we're looking at the situation where it's like, you know what, that's not actually my dad, and that entity is not actually looking out for my best interest. And so when you see a father go through another cycle with another set of kids, or creating a new family, they're really just trying to say, I can do it. Look, I can do it. I can be this father. But it's not to say that they couldn't be to the others. It's just they feel like they've made so many mistakes, because guys have an interesting, it's not that all men do this. Not all men cut and run. Not all men will choose to have another family. Some people will work this kind of situation out. But more often than not, what they've allowed through, and we're now dissolving this old patriarchal system, is, oh, well, you can just try again, honey. Start over. It's okay. Just scratch that, throw it away, and start over. And in reality, it's like Earth, right? You can't just say, scratch that, we'll just throw this away and start over. No, you're here and you're working with what you got. So you start where you are, you use what you have, and you do what you can. And so for us who are healing from this really big father wound and like the imbalanced masculine energy, it's taking into perspective where you need the support as that masculine energy, right? So if that means making more boundaries for yourself, even in your mind, not talking bad about yourself, or understanding that you're capable, or different things, that because I look at healthy father-daughter relationships, or as healthy as they can be, right? And I see the fathers teaching the children to be independent, to be self-reliant, and have self-esteem. So if you're lacking in those feelings of being self-reliant, or you have low self-esteem or self-worth, or understanding your worth, then perhaps that's a good area for you to start applying that masculine mentality, that masculine aspect, and say, no, I am worthy. I'm here on this planet. There's a reason, right? And so even if you don't know what that reason is, you know that you're here. You know that you're able to have that conversation. So if you're able to have that conversation and you're able to be here, then moving into, okay, now where are my strengths? And then you can start looking into your strengths. You can start looking into um, where your creativity lies, how you can like manifest or build, and that will be a great avenue for. Hold on, I gotta go. Let me help, baby
Oh,
girl. She was under the stairs. Okay.
She back? Okay. I'm sorry. Is she back?
yeah, I think she's back.
Okay.
But basically, you know, we're gonna have to be our own cheerleaders here. We're gonna have to reparent ourselves. We're gonna have to go through the whole process. And then those people who even did have parents but they were neglectful, aloha, but they were like neglectful or absentee or whatever, we still get to go through and figure out how we're going to cultivate this within ourselves, cultivate our power again. And I think that's part of what the divine feminine rising or the feminine aspect rising is of course we're supported and we're nurtured, but now how do we execute with that masculine tie-in? And which I think, as much as Virgo is the ultimate female, I think Virgo and Capricorn sounds male as I don't know what.
Well,
Pragmatic.
actually, yeah. Well,
What?
Virgo
We
and
can't-
Capricorn, Virgo and Capricorn together, they're a power couple. So it says, "Be prepared to be in the power couple," and where our planets only usually stay in a sign for about a month. Virgo and Capricorn get along really well, and they're together for the next 4 months.
Oh wow.
And so it says this lover's dance helps us to understand that being true to ourselves and embracing love directly is better than running from it. And so it talks about nostalgia coming up. But the other high part of this is it's not always partnership as in romance. It can be a business partner. It can be, these kind of business associate, collaborator, teammates, or a romantic partner who is ambitious, talented, and successful. It says our own goals will see a dose of luck as we can better connect with colleagues and coworkers, a happier sense of camaraderie, creativity. On a personal level, we will value loyalty, sensuality, and practicality in our connections. Creative skills will flourish. And last but not least, our finances could see a boost too. The only problem with that is exes do kind of show back up. So if your DM's an ex, that's not a bad thing. But if he's not, that could be a bad thing. It says, instead, taking an easy breezy read through how Venus and Capricorn will likely affect your zodiac when she's perky, awake, and energized between November 5th and December 19th, and then January 29th to March 6th when she goes retrograde. So we're getting the full frontal and then turning around and getting retrograde right after it.
All right.
Yeah. So there's some areas of fortune that could then shift into areas of lack. So plan accordingly.
When is it again? For what to what?
It is from November 5th to March. The whole shebang is from November 5th to March 6th. But then the direct is November 5th to December 19th. And then the retrograde period goes from the January 29th to March 6th.
Oh.
So we're going to be in the shadows of it over the holidays. Yay, fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
So plan accordingly. Don't spend lavishly at the holidays and then not have the money to pay your credit card.
Right. Yeah. That kind of timeline kind of edge up with what they talk about. Watch the winner. That's why I say give it that timeline again.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see. Yeah, and I know K Moon said that also with this Scorpio moon is any kind of right now we're moving out of the issues that we have with the mother figure. That's kind of getting a little kind of smoothed out. It's not as like nails on the chalkboard as it was before. That's moving out. About the divine, about the master. I always think about Lee, and he's talking about your relationship with your father and how that it reflects into every relationship that you have. Business wise, that kind of goes, it ties into what you're talking about, the Capricorn and the Virgo tie in. All of that sounded like kind of like Saturn, kind of Neptune, kind of
Well,
energy.
Saturn controls Capricorn,
Right.
so that would
You
be
know what?
that those
I'm,
overtones.
I'm just channeling. I said that sounds very
Yeah.
ish, the fathery figure. So, practical about thinking about what you're doing. Um, about the fathers, I was kind of in between, like kind of channeling, talking to dad, and a little bit back and forth. Um, and I know I'm kind of candid. Um, and some of that, yeah, they do kind of step into getting new families because I could say I could be on the other end of it where I'm the product of where the father leaves the first set and then starts another set of family and everything's coming up roses. The first one, it was interesting. They did the best. Well, he married her young and like straight out of high school and had kids back to back to back. Then some spans some kids in between and the marriage, and then he comes to mom and that. And I think his life kind of turned around. Um, I I can understand it at a certain point. Yeah, you can't see being placed in the father's shoes, but I will say this, and I don't think that's the way you were saying it, but I mean maybe this is somebody else I'm talking to in the choir. That's not from the choir, that's out there sitting in the pews. That you have to, in order to understand you got to go ahead and do that forensic science of stepping into and trying to see what made your father do the things that he did. Giving empathy is almost like forgiveness, which is again helping to release you too. Because when I do hear people talk about that and about the father, and you can still hear pain, you can still hear you're still tied to the past, and you're not releasing yourself from that. I could go down on and on and on about my dad, about stuff, and then not because of death that you said, well, he's gone now. Yeah, you would release him now. No, that was even when he was alive. I was working on that. So that wasn't just dad. My dad did some interesting stuff. Very interesting. He had a personality. He could be sweet as pie, but he could turn on a dime on you with that personality. That's the cancer in him. So but I had to sit back and really see, okay, where's this coming from? Okay, your mother's a certain way. You've been to different marriages. They weren't this. They were abusive. They took advantage of you. They took money from you. So I can understand you why you like this. So I'm giving a little bit. I had to understand that to understand this. Why is this father that's being presented to me very closed off in communications, very closed off emotions, very, very closed off? I could sit up there and say, well, you know what, that's your problem, that's it. I forgive you, you do you, I do me. But I can't understand and gauge it as to the reasons why he did that, because that's going to help me to understand also subconsciously how I'm picking up some of his ways, or that I don't repeat it, or if I got children, they don't repeat it. Ancestral, I want to kind of cut that off. So my thing is, I made myself, I'll just say this for myself. I made myself go into my father's shoes. I made myself channel and have conversations with him to understand, why did you do X, Y, and Z? What was the reason? I get it. My mom is still struggling with it. I'll be honest with you, because she's looking for another aspect. But I went
Mhm.
in depth into his shoes and seen why he is act or did the way he did, and then I could, for me, it helped me to kind of release that. Now, there's some things that I do have with him that I didn't know until he brought it to me recently and said, "Hey, that's that one a little bit in that coffee pot that you still think is cleaned up. It ain't cleaned up. It's coming up in your DM, and I'm showing you you haven't forgiven that part." Popped. So my thing is that you gotta delve into it. You can't sweet. I kind of hear from some of the dialogue, and I gotta keep it 100. Is that it's a forgiving, but it's like I'm sweeping it underneath the rug, and then I'm gonna walk away, but the pile is still underneath the rug. It's not delving into it. This person is still your father. He's still part of you, and it's still a way that you got to go in there because, to be honest, even myself, I'm seeing my dad in all the different men relationships that I'm attracting to me. The way I act in my divine masculine is reflecting the way how my dad acts because that's my go-to. That's the way I understand how it is to be in that energy. So it does behoove you to go delve into that. And I think some of us are a little scared to kind of go into that. That's where that Scorpio wants us to kind of die off of that. So we will be able to fill our own cup and for us to be truly able to see how we can fill in because my dad just came and sat on my bed. I felt him when he got up. He said, "Boing," the coil inside the mattress popped when he got up. He's like, this is why you can't fill up your cup because it's the way of the relationship of how it is that when I had to work, I did say that he was a workaholic, and you seeing this reflected in your DM, he a workaholic. It's you're not really understanding the scope of it. It's coming up again because you have not forgiven that part about me. And I told you the reasons why I felt I had to do this. And once I put myself into his shoes to understand why he felt the need to be such a workaholic, it helps me to understand myself as I use as a go-to when I don't want to deal with things. I shut myself into work, and how my DM does the same thing. So it does. I know I'm going all around the park, but I'm coming back to that. It does behoove you to go delve in there to see how is this stuff reflected. And that's all I'm going to say.
And that makes a lot of sense too, because in my situation with my dad, even though he wasn't happy in the relationship, he stayed because of obligation, and that is what I fight with the DM. He wasn't happy in the situation, but he stayed due to obligation, and that's something I've got to work out with my dad so it can be cleared and not repeated.
Right. And there's something, yeah, and it's reflected in your life too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say that throughout my process, because I think I'm different than a lot of people, but maybe I'm not. There's got to be a percentage. There's billions of us. Oh, it died? My headphones died, and I don't know how to turn the other ones I was given, so I'm just gonna hear all of nature until I mute it. But I was overly empathetic, right? I understood everything in terms of why and stuff. I just didn't acknowledge my emotions that happened with that fact, right? So there was some trying in the beginning as a young child, right? But then his story got in the way. But I took that on as it's your responsibility to make this happen, or it's your responsibility, or it's your fault, right? They're the reason your dad isn't there anymore. And so then I would look at myself and how could I do this? And if I just did this better or that better, or, wasn't born with a disability somehow, I could somehow get him to love me. And it's like, no, that's just him. And sometimes people are dicks. I mean, I'm not calling my dad a dick, but sometimes the behavior is dickish. And my aunts have called him worse to me and told me, don't worry, honey, that your dad is just like that. He isn't. And they've put in some expletives that I'm not allowed to say. According to daddy, I'm not allowed to say those expletives, but that doesn't mean that's every phase of his life, right? People have their phases, they have their maturity, and sometimes it takes men a while to mature. I was in pictures of the wedding, so I'm guessing I wasn't planned. No, like, I understand all of that, but that doesn't make it an okay thing, right? I'm allowed to feel angry as a child. I never let myself feel anger. I'm just now feeling it. I'm generally disgruntled right now. I don't know if it's the moon is helping me kick into, no, that was messed up. You didn't have to deal with that, but you did. And that was jacked and you took on the responsibility. That's nice of you, but you didn't need to do that. I'm giving myself permission to feel the anger that I never let myself feel. And now my
Mm-hmm.
body's starting to relax. I'm giving myself permission to put the boundaries that I didn't let myself put before because I thought I had to be kind and caring and hold this space for people or whatever. But it's like, oh, you just keep giving them and they take. So maybe you should stop giving. Oh, you gave all this attention to someone who clearly is trying to get something out of you or isn't returning it. How is that a representative of that experience of you chasing after that love that just doesn't seem to want to give itself to you, right? And so I sit back and I'm reflecting on it and I understand, but I'm over empathizing. I actually need to process my own emotions from those time periods because they're clearly still being used as blinders in terms of discernment because I'm not using the proper discernment or I wasn't using the proper discernment. So, where is it in your life that you've been giving up too much of your power? Or
Mm-hmm.
where is it where you've been ignoring it? Right. And the same thing is if you're doing the blame game thing, it was their fault. I always come from a space of responsibility because I choose to be here right now. And when you choose to be here right now, you don't choose to be in the past, right? But you can actually look at it from a more omniscient or all-knowing perspective, and that really allows you to alchemize, okay, maybe that person didn't really curse me out, but they look like that aunt who cursed my mom out back in the day, and
Right.
now like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's what I was seeing, when really they just asked me how I would like my burger or whatever. When you're like, how do you want your burger? It's like, it wasn't like that. I didn't add all that. I don't need to add all that. All that conjecture is what they call it. But we're getting it. We're getting it, ladies. This moon is doing something, but it's a rebirthing time.
It
And,
is.
and so
Mm-hmm.
what's the deal with, it's interesting. This is a really good paradox. When you are a child, you're very, very impatient because your understanding of time is like limited. But
Good.
it takes so much time to get a hold of things and learn something new and then become good at it. So, as much as you are growing and becoming new with you, you still need to take patience with that, even though it feels like I should know this already, or it's usually shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? But there is a balance that can be found, and the kids are laughing, so I think it's a good sign. There's joy on the other side of that self love and that
Yeah.
confidence and that going through the,
Mm-hmm.
you actually do need to feel the emotions. I mean, she's Divine Sunshine is not wrong in the sense that a lot of people avoid feeling emotions. They will numb out. They will disembody. Like they'll leave their bodies. So how can we now take ourselves into a level of staying embodied, even when it's uncomfortable? I
Right.
haven't thought about this situation in a long time, but it's making me super uncomfortable. Well, breathe. Let yourself
Mm-hmm.
even think about it, and then let yourself have the emotion and process it, because it takes time to do all of those things.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. And then and don't linger on it either, because you got overactive
Mm-mm.
and you're trying to, okay, it sounds good. Now I get to the point that I have to tell myself, "Ooh, that sounds good. Okay, cut. That's it." you know that I think I got to what April always said. There's so many ways to get to the number nine. Okay, I think we covered all of them, and I think that's it. So let's not keep on circling the drain on that. So Yeah, you do let it bubble up. I think a lot of us try to not do that. I think Kate Moon even said that. Don't do those self-medicated or zone it out of it. Feel it, get to the ending of it, so you can really have that depth about that, so it doesn't keep on coming up as well. Or that.
And how you know you actually have processed something is you can think about, because the thing with death and mourning, right? Is it it feels really intense at the moment. If you actually feel it, super intense. But every time it's talked about again, there's less,
Right,
and
true.
that's how you know you're processing it. So there's no levels of victimization. There's no levels of, I mean, you might have been perpetrated upon, but you can now look at it from a place where I don't feel that in my body. It's not embodied, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel that pain. And a lot of people, when they have those traumatic moments, it doesn't, trauma is different from person to person, but when they have those traumatic moments, it's the system is overloaded, so they tend to escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you allow yourself to process it, you no longer are afraid. Your body doesn't tense up to it. You're no longer like shielding. You can then process and then allow even something better to come through.
Mm-hmm. Well, the not neat thing, but the one thing with trauma is when it hasn't been healed yet, our body brings every one of those markers right back. That whole chemical sensation in our brain and everything from when it happened,
Wow.
it comes back. It might not come back as strong, but it still comes back. And it's just enough to kind of and yeah, but it will. If you have not healed your trauma, when that comes up, it will bring all the markers right back up, and you actually go back through it again. And so, those of us, and we all have traumas that we don't want to deal with, and we kind of like, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll push it down a little bit longer. Yeah, I don't see that. Please, step away. um that everybody has them, and we
Right,
deal with them in little chunks. And as a teacher, you know what I'm talking about. Divine Sunshine, we talk about chunking it to give it
right,
to the kids in little bites and little bites. And that's really the way we need to look at our trauma too, because some of this stuff, especially the older you get, it's almost like dragging a piece of tape off on dirty carpet.
right.
'Cause the more you drag it, the more stuff's going to stick, and it's just going to keep sticking.
Right,
And so instead of just picking off each little like piece of grass or each fuzz, you just tear the tape and throw that little chunk away, and then you deal with it, and then you throw it and deal with
right,
um because we all have it that we don't want to deal with. And I think if we deal with it in chunks, it makes it easier to deal with. So like mine wasn't as much of when I had my triggering, wasn't as much of the abandonment as it was the pick me pick me first, put me first. um and so that put that in there. um but then going back and being able to, one, listen to my intuition and know what I heard, and then also going back and reevaluating previous situations with us. um yeah, when we were little, I was always put first. So it's one of those things like, well, I always was first. I was the first. And you know so that also kind of calms it down. But we have to look at it logically, and like April says, we have to sit with it. We have to own it, we have to understand it, and then we have to let it go. And I mean, just circling back to what we talked about months and months ago, wonderful, wonderful time for and I always say it wrong, so April can correct me, but the Ho'oponopono prayer. I mean, this is the time to use this. Did I say it right? No, of course not.
No, you did not. Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono. Okay. I had too many oh no, I don't know. The oh no prayer. But um but that's really the time, and we need to do them, with our fathers.
yeah,
As we feel this trauma that comes up, and we need to go through our part of it. And there is always some, because we put an expectation on it.
Right.
We put that expectation. If I do this, then this will happen. And
Put
especially,
expectation on them too.
and as a little girl, especially, we do that.
Right. They're still humans.
And
Absolutely.
so, we need to take their cape off and do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, forget, but we need to forgive for ourselves so we can move on and have a healthy relationship.
Right.
But if they were a real, shall we say, asinine at times, that's on them, and that's something that, because we know we can't control other people, we can't control their emotions, they're not in control of ours, we don't give that power away, and other people don't give us that, so we can't say we made them that way. We don't control that.
Right.
So we just need to go through that, and then not only for them, but then for ourselves in that situation. We need to go through and say, I'm sorry, I apologize, or I apologize, not I'm sorry, I apologize, I love you, please forgive me. With ourselves, through the expectations we put on ourselves that we put on them, and then almost like demanded back, on the what those expectations did when they weren't met, that we did to ourselves, and then the second guessing, and the almost like death of like some self-esteem, and almost made us like people pleasers in that instance. If I would have only done this, I would have done it. So we've got to go back and then apologize to ourselves, and that's where that self-love comes in that you're talking about with Scorpio, and that apology, and that, loving, because that's the ultimate form of love, is to be able to say, look, that probably wasn't the best choice. I know I was little, but in turn, we're also going to be healing the inner child.
Right.
We're going to be healing the adult child, and we're going to be ending that cycle. We're going to be ending that cycle, and we're going to say, what, go do you, boo, because, I see how this plays out, and if this is not something you want to be part of, then don't be part of it. And in my situation, I can have a conversation with my dad's higher self, but he has dementia. So, it's very confusing. It's a bright light.
I got my dad's family in now. He said, from a father's aspect, he was saying that don't let what we do as fathers change your heart.
Yeah, because kids don't, and if you have kids, they don't come, and I mean, that's with anything, and being in a classroom with kids or having your own children, they don't come with a manual, and they all have these secret little switches, and they go off, and it's kind of like that Jack in the Box, and so we have to understand, from a human aspect, that they didn't know what was going on, and it was really done on a wing and a prayer. And my parents read Dr. Spock, cover to cover, and and so that still was like a whole mess. That was the let them cry themselves to sleep, and then they won't need. No, we then had abandonment issues. Thank you.
That's what Mom and I debate about on that. I was like, and that was my first memory as a baby. I remember her closing the door, leaving me in the room by myself. First memory. I didn't leave you. I came in and checked on you. I said, I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, so those kind of, but at the time he was, the top rated baby doctor. He was the end all to be all. And in another 20 years, there's going to be another end all to be all. And,
I think that's going to be the main thing, is like the death of the idea of one solution. They keep talking about how it's all one aspect or one,
and hopefully we will
it's never just one
for everything, but it doesn't work out like that.
No,
Mm-mm. I mean, if you would have put the two of us together, even as babies, even though, you know, April would have just been a glimmer in an eye somewhere,
Right.
but because she's so much younger,
Right.
but even so, we all were different, and not even not physically, you know, but mentally.
Right.
Babies react to things differently.
Differently. Right.
And so what worked, like Helen didn't care. She would sleep sound. She, you can put me in here, that's fine. Give me a few minutes, I'll, you know, and I'm out cold. Never had a
Uh-huh.
problem with it. Never wanted, you know, anything else. Jackie, on the other hand, you're not letting go of me. Those little fingers, they were like little spider monkeys. You know, she would grab on and, you know, don't let go.
Right.
And it's just, it's our, you know, mental capacity
Right.
on what we need. And
I
so we
think I
have to,
know that with these dogs. It's the same thing.
oh yeah.
One way and the other one, nah, you better not try that with me. That's not gonna work.
Well, you know what? I'm sure you see it even with your mom with the dogs. That what they'll some things they'll let you do,
Right.
they won't let
They
her
not
do, and
happen.
vice versa.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
It's
my
like no one
tiny little
size.
dog is the same way.
Right. What no one size fit all trick here.
Mm-mm.
Say how the universe operates.
Yeah. So we've got to forgive them, and we've got to forgive ourselves for putting them in that position. And also we have to forgive ourselves for understanding we were young and we didn't understand how this works. And it's all right.
Right, because we develop a perspective
Mm-hmm.
from that what we thought we knew what was going on, or our explanation or rationale for why they were doing the things they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us still
Because
around with that rationale. Wait,
and then we that gives us the doubt in our head. Well, you know, Daddy let me down, so every man's going to let me down.
right.
And then you know, add in the little rodents, the playground, and you know, pulling your hair and all that stuff.
Right.
I want to ask somebody in the universe for clarification on that. Why did they give little boys that tactic, you know, to be mean to us when they liked us?
I like
Because it almost like it reinforces that. We'll see that now, like, you know, little Johnny's pulling my hair, and well, guys are just creeps, you know.
right. You really like,
So
oh God, you just slapped me.
yeah, you spit gum in my hair, but you like me,
You
you
like
know. You bring me a box of chocolates and you laugh at me and call me names. I'm not sure.
confused. I'm very confused.
Yes. Well, I can't say anything. The DM picks on me all the time, so
Maybe we should
he
go
has
to,
never outgrown that.
yeah. Yeah, always picking, doing something. All right, then, ladies, we're going to end right here. We're at the 1 minute
Yes.
mark. Is there anything that you're working on that you want to talk about? If not, we can.
Not really. No, just
All right, then. It is midnight. Thank you again. Always remember to make sure that you click like, share, and subscribe to this channel. So you can get all this good stuff. They're very in depth. Each time we go into, we become more vulnerable and raw in our conversation. So I really would say, if you need some of that and really understanding that you're not by yourself in this, and that you see that we have some commonalities of things that are happening in pattern, and to make sure that you come and play with us on every Friday at the same time. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash that notification button so you can know when we come on. All right, then. Get us on out of here, April.
Stay blessed, stay golden, and remember, you were made for this golden life.
All right, and Cassidy.
empty the sand out of your shoes and socks. Make sure that you get your own sand bucket and toys. Clean up your virtual trash off the playground, and wishing you the best life ever. See you real soon.
All right, then. As always, stay uplifted, stay motivated, stay sitting. Namaste. Namago. Love you. All right, and we'll be playing with you real soon next week on the playground.